So it is that time of the year where it's time to declutter, and I recognize that between summer and now I have amassed a lot of things, primarily due to sales. And once I became debt free, I recognized that the place that I put my money into was cosmetics and travel. And let's just say some things have gotten out of hand. So figured I would share what it is that I'm getting rid of and why. Because in order for me to, I think clearly and also work faster in the beginning of part of the day, I need to make it easier for me to get ready, and this is how I do it. So if you have any more questions about things, feel free to ask me. But for now, let's start. So starting with skincare. So skincare is a massive part of every single routine. And usually I start by making sure that one, I wash my hands, because I just say you can't, have dirty hands and then have it all over your face. That's how you cause acne. So once I'm done with that, and then it becomes about how do I make sure that I have great skin prep. So I only have two things that I really do for skin prep. First is just moisturize everywhere. Now that's actually where I'm gonna start getting rid of things. So I'm gonna get rid of my hand cream and my foot cream, just because it's old. I was testing these out and gone through them. They're just not doing it for me. At least the ones from Burt's Bees are just not it. I think this one, the hand cream, has like a really weird smell that I don't really like, and the other one has coconut, and I don't really care for that. Things that I will be keeping, because I think they're absolute staples and they work year round, are the Confidence in a Cream. This is just the most perfect moisturizing cream. Even if you have really like oily skin, sometimes what it is that your skin is overproducing oils because it just is not moisturized enough. So I found that this actually really balanced my skin and balanced my T-zone, so I'm not super oily. And something that I think works great under makeup, and also because it's a sunscreen, is an extra plus, is the Fenty Hydro Visor sunscreen. I think it's absolutely flawless, and I always keep it around because I'm always running through it. So those two things are 100% being kept, but the other two getting rid of. Now when it comes to foundation, so primer, because that's the next step, I'm going to keep both my primers. So I oscillate between two. Let me get those two. And that is the all-nighter primer, face primer, because this happens to keep my face on, especially whenever I was traveling through Europe this summer. I found that sometimes I've been in super hot, oily places, and this just made sure that my face looked the way it needed to look like throughout that whole trip, which is what I want. And then a consistent staple, which is why I now buy the big size, is the Hangover RX from Too Faced. I think this, just like you can see, it's like dingy. It's truly actually utilized. These two right here, all I ever truly need, and it will always forever repurchase. Now, when it comes to the next piece of my face, I just want to talk through that really quickly. So when it comes to actual foundation, I only use two. First it was only one. I felt that after trying tons of foundations, the only ones that I really truly liked is this L'Oreal Infallible. I think it's the shade 530. That's my personal shade. I felt like whether I was in a hot situation or a cold situation, a sweaty, oily night, day, it just looks perfect. It's kind of more like a skin-like finish, so not super matte, not super oily, not super glowy, but it just happens to look like your skin at its best, which is what you want. So that's being kept. A recent favorite has been the Milani Scream Queen. I had two, right? One that I was kind of using for summer, but you can see it's like significantly darker. That's a 570. It's actually too dark. So instead of looking crazy, I'm just going to finally get rid of it, just because it does not work. And then the one in 530 is my perfect shade, and it just happens to look great year round. It's a little bit darker than my skin tone, but because of how I like highlight this naturally, it balances out, and you can see the outside part of my face is darker naturally anyway, so it works. It like matches the overwhelming majority of my face, except for maybe like these parts right here. But that you can balance out with concealer, so that's perfectly fine. So now we can talk about concealer, which is actually where I sometimes overspend, but I think, I've kind of figured out what works for my skin. So when it comes to spot concealing, I tend to stick with the Kevyn Aucoin. I think it's thick enough that I can just put a dab of it, like, powder that, or, you know, tap that down a little bit, melt it into my skin, and it just happens to work really well in the days I don't really want to put a whole bunch of stuff on my face, but maybe I have like a blemish or two that I would like to blend in. So that's being kept. My holy grail that 100% is also going to be kept is the Born This Way by Too Faced in the shade Chai. It also happens to work year round. It is hydrating, and the thing is, my under eyes can get very dry, which can lead to creasing, which is why I think that is a perfect balance that adds a little bit of a glow, but not too much, so I don't look like I'm oily, like a glazed donut, because I don't fully like the glazed donut look for me, okay? And then I'm gonna finish the Maybelline Age Rewind Concealer. I think this is my second one of these. It's in the shade Hazelnut. I find it to be like the perfect skin-like concealer, but it's not super full coverage, just to be very honest. Like, this is not going to give you it's supposed to be like the eraser, like it doesn't actually erase like the way that you need it to, but it's enough. It's significantly more than this, which is the Milani Retouch Erase Concealer. This one really doesn't do much of anything, like almost anything. So I am going to get rid of this because I don't think it does anything for me. The next thing that I tend to look at is the L'Oreal Infallible One. This one I've actually started using because I think it's very full coverage. I have it in the shade Honey, I believe. I think it's just a little too white for my under eyes, but this, and I think it's a little too dry for my under eyes. But because I sometimes have dry eyelids, I actually use this as a like a concealer to put under my makeup, and that's a way that I utilize that. So my goal is to use just those four. I think those four are enough. I do not need more. In fact, I think four is a lot to begin with, but I know that I'll be done with this one probably in like a month or two. And then I can just continue finishing the other ones, and they're well loved and they're utilized, so we're good there. So now we're gonna go into blusher, and I use usually two types of blush. I tend to put blush before I put on any type of contour or bronzer. So I tend to stick with liquids, and my two favorite are the Rare Beauty, and I think this is everybody's favorite, right? Rare Beauty in Love, although sometimes it's a little red, so therefore I balance it out with these NYX Sweet Cheeks. I think NYX Sweet Cheeks in the shade Almost Famous is the absolute perfect one for somebody who has like my skin tone. I absolutely love it for that. So I think this is probably the perfect one. And I'm going to keep both of those. I've gotten all these little samples from Nessa Myricks. And I'm just going to, I've tried them. I feel like it is just a little, it doesn't do enough. It literally just does not do enough. So I like a little bit of pigmentation at the very least, and I just don't think I get those from here. So I'm gonna get rid of these like samples that I keep everywhere that are unnecessary. Another one that I think I'm gonna get rid of is the Made by Mitchell Where's the SPF. Now mind you, I love this brand. I love the formula. Just this one is almost red on me, so it kind of looks a little clownish, which you don't like. Although sometimes I use it to mix in with other things, but I think for now I can say goodbye to that one and be okay. I have another Sweet Chicks, but this one is more, it is more like berry toned. So I'm gonna try this. So it's a bit more berry toned, and it's something that I have started to learn to appreciate. Same thing with this Milani one, which is also a very similar shade, which is a hint lighter, but it still works really well on my skin tone. So those are my two berry tone ones. Those are my two orange ones. I think that's enough. I am gonna finish the rest of this Rare Beauty one, and it's in a pink tone. I don't know what exactly I think it's called Grace. Grace is the shade. It's rather bright just to be, but it's just enough that it actually works. I didn't think that it would, because me, pink, just sometimes that looks a little odd, little ashy. But this one actually happens to do something. So I'm gonna finish it out. Also, we'll be done in like a month or so not really too worried about there. And now let's talk through a step that I use like multiple times, which is setting spray. So I always use setting spray as I'm blending all my makeup consistently, just so that it really does stay where it's supposed to be. And I found that's like a secret trick to keeping your makeup on. I will stay with my Charlotte Tilbury. At this current moment, I don't think anything works better, so I'll just stick with it. So that's staying. In terms of actual cream, bronzer and contour. I only have two. These two happen to work. Tried and True, that is Made by Mitchell, Shade and Lake. If you are my shade, this is perfect as a bronzer. And then I will stick with the Ulma Beauty concealer and sculpt stick in the shade Brown Sugar. It is perfect for if you are my skin tone or darker, so consider it, and I think you will be very happy. And then let's talk powders, because I do like to set my face with powder overall. And for that one, I am going to tell you like my two favorite right now is the Huda Beauty in Kunifa, right? It's perfect golden. It sets really well. It's not too heavy. It like just looks fantastic, like year round. And I think it will actually keep your makeup where it's at. The other one is the Too Faced Born This Way Ethereal Setting Powder in the shade Medium, Translucent Medium. Fantastic, flawless, chef's kiss. Another one that I use on the days that I'm not wearing actual like full-on makeup and I just have like concealer under my eyes and whatnot, but just need a hint more coverage. And this one is struggling, literally struggling. Jesus. And I just need to go buy a new one. That's all it is. My gosh, this is struggling. Never mind, let me let it go. I was gonna say basically it's a creamy finish one in shade creamy bronze finish from Black Radiance Soft Focus Effect. It's more of a finishing powder than an actual setting powder, so it does have a little bit more coverage. But for me, you know, someone who I think my skin tends to be doing very well because of having a very simple skincare routine, like this tends to work really well. So gonna get rid of that one. Oh yeah. Let me keep it until I get a replacement, but I will promise to get a replacement ASAP. I do have two other powders that I still don't really know how I feel about, aka I don't think I really love them that much. And that is the One Sized Beauty in Dark Deep and Translucent. Now mind you, these together, I think if there was a shade in the middle, like I don't know if you can see it, if there's a shade in the middle, it'd be the perfect shade. As you can see, I really like golden ones because they happen to be perfect, but this is solid for an all over powder in terms of the dark deep shade. And then if I need a hint of brightness under my eyes, I do put the translucent one, but I think overall these are the two ones that I'm gonna say two and just let that go. So that's there. In terms of what comes next, it's also my actual powder products. So now let's go through those very quickly, and I'll kind of share what I feel about them. But let me put this to the side. Okay, so my powder products. Okay, so when it comes to, actually I do put them all in here just to keep things a little simpler, right? So when it comes to actual powder, bronzers, and concealers, I have three and they happen to be fantastic. The one that I think is the actual best one is probably the Dark Deep Juvia's Place, maybe because it's small and compact. This one in the top shades very specifically is actually the perfect bronzer shade for me. And if I need to make it a little bit darker, that's when I use the bottom, but I rarely use the bottom by itself because it's just a little on the purple side when it comes to undertone. Therefore, sometimes, it does not look like I want it to look like. I use the dark shade, but this is more whenever I need to like have a blusher. That's actually more so what I use it for. And the top one, sometimes when I need to lighten whatever bronzer or concealer I have because it's too dark. So that's kind of where I'm at with those two. Then because it's also transitioned us into blushers, I am also going to keep my Morphe shade 8D bronzer face palette. I think these two are perfect as bronzers, and this is a fantastic contour for someone with my skin tone. I'm not sure if you can see very well. I do not use these two highlighters. I've only like bumped them. That's what's caused those dents. And I do think these are two solid powder blushers for me. Now, something I will be getting rid of when it comes to the blush category is the Sahara 2 Juvia's Place palette. I don't know what it is, but these shades don't work the way I want them to, except for this one. This one's fantastic. I love orange blushes. I think they look fantastic on dark skin, but this one just makes me look a little on the ashy side. This also makes me look ashy. I don't do shimmer in my blushers. That's just not for me personally. And this just, it doesn't do what I need it to do. So therefore I'm gonna let that go for sure. But the perfect blusher palette, like truly top tier, is this one by Jacqueline Cosmetics. It's her Rouge Romance blush palette. I feel whatever you want to feel about her, this product is, it's the moment. It is, it just is. There's a thing I can do about that. Let's take it. It just is what it is. I think all of these shades for the most part, with the exception of this one, as you can probably tell. Even this one I do something with. These ones, on the other hand, are fantastic for deep dark skin tones. So therefore it is the one that I would be keeping. All right. And that just is like the overall majority of my makeup except for my lip stuff. For my lip stuff, I think I edit up that pretty frequently. So everything in lips is gonna stay. It just is what it is. And that's mainly because I edit out my lip stuff every couple months. I'm like, if I don't like it, I just don't wear it. If I realize I'm wearing something for longer than 3 to 6 months, it's gotta go. So now let's go through actual eyeshadow palettes. I will go through this by brand because it's just easier. So first thing, 2 KKW palettes. This camo palette's one of the best palettes, I think. They came out, whatever year this came out, probably 2019. And unfortunately it came out when she was shutting down her company, 2019 or 2020, somewhere in there. But it came out literally as she was shutting down the company. But it happens to be fantastic. Like, what a beautiful, beautiful palette. I'm telling you, this shimmer, this like kind of multi-chrome is phenomenal. Just phenomenal. And I think this is a beautiful green. I think this palette was just done well. Just done well. So therefore that is not going anywhere. What is going somewhere is this one. I think it maybe just a little too cool tone. So I haven't been able to make this. Yeah. And as much as I love this shade, because I think this shade is beautiful, it's not enough for me to keep this whole palette. So I'm gonna be getting rid of that. Okay, so that's there. Now let's go BH Cosmetics. BH Cosmetics, I have 2, and it's their ice cream palettes. I'm gonna be very honest. I'm keeping these for like, because I do think whenever I need like a very unique special greens or very unique special blues, these are it. These are it. The quality, top tier. Cannot beat. They're just it. Okay, Juvia's Place palettes. So I have a couple. Let's see, or did I get rid of some? Okay, yeah, I have a couple. I have 3. That is a couple. All right, so let's go through them real quickly. I think this one, which is the Wahala 2 palette, this one's going to be kept. I think these shades are beautiful. I think this is one of my favorite like multi-chromes. I don't know if you can see it, but it goes from purple to like a shifty greenish, but it's fantastic. It's fantastic. So I think this palette will be kept. This is one that I'm not sure about. It's a Nubian 2. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give myself a challenge. If I can't use it in the next month, it goes. I think for fall, this green, this purple, just perfect smokiness. The rest of it, I don't know. So this one's gonna be my maybe. If it can't be used in the next month and a half, it's gotta go. This is the Coral palette. I think it's Sun Let This Go, or Nubian 3 Coral palette. I think it's a good palette. I do. I just can't find myself reaching for it. So that's also gonna go in the, if I don't use it in the next 3 months, it's gotta go type palette. I have exactly 1 palette from Glam Light. It's the Cake palette. You can see it's like so pretty, but I don't use this palette. I don't think it's that great. I think that's part of the issue. So I'm gonna put this on the chopping block. It's just, I think this one's gotta go. Okay, let me talk to you about one of the best eyeshadow companies that could possibly exist. Be Perfect Cosmetics. Be Perfect. These 2 palettes you need. This is the perfect fall palette, and this is just if you just need pops of color that happen to be perfect. So let me show you the Be Perfect Carnival palette. Look at these shades. This is everything you need for the fall, okay? All right, you can do neutral looks with this. You can have a pop of color in different ways with this, right? You could do smoky red for your Valentines and your Christmases and whatnot, but this is one of the most interesting greens I've ever seen. right? Like this right here, it's just fall personified in every perfect way, and therefore it will be kept. It is a holy grail. I'm not even gonna try to sort it out. I'm just gonna put it right back in the drawer. And then this, I just think the pigmentation on this palette is stunning. So this is the other rainbow palette. I think this is the only rainbow palette you need. Like, to be very frank, this is it. It's a moment. It is what it is, right? I have exactly one Jaclyn Hill palette, got rid of the rest. I had the original one, which I think was a fantastic formula. And then I have this one. This one I think for spring has just been such a perfect palette, so therefore I'm gonna keep it. Although I will say, I do think that these shades sometimes are very powdery, so they don't stick on your eyelids, like they like flake away over time, which is my number one issue with this palette, and it's why sometimes I have a hard time working with it, but I'm going to keep it overall. And okay, palette that I will be getting rid of, just because I don't know, I just haven't found the love to use it. It's a Tammy palette. I thought I would love it a lot more than I do. And I keep trying to make it work, but I don't. So officially goes into the 3-month chopping block. Made by Mitchell palette, right? As I said, I really do love some other stuff he does. I've bought all the palettes, but I keep getting rid of all of them as soon as I get them. I think I'm gonna let this one go. All right, it's just, I love greens, but for whatever reason, I just don't feel, yeah. Not a single Natasha Denona palette's gonna be thrown away. I have multiple, right? And I think the reason why I don't use them is because I keep trying to use all my other palettes. So if I get rid of some of those ones that I just talked about, then yeah, it's just a wrap. I have I have 3 of these actually. I have the Soft Glam from Anastasia, Subculture from Anastasia, and you can see it's been used, it's been loved in different ways. But I think this is going to be what is on the chalk block. Not because I don't love it, but because it is also very old. And if you keep using old makeup, you're going to get a eye infection. So I'm going to put this also on the 3-month chopping block and let it go. All right. So that is it. Like, that's what's in here. So in summary, I'm getting rid of some cream, I'm getting rid of a foundation, getting rid of a blush, getting rid of a concealer, getting rid of 2 skincare products, looking at 1 blusher palette that's gotta go, looking at about 4 palettes that are also gonna go, and that is how I'm gonna trim down for winter or for fall. But I just think sometimes, like, clearing up some things can allow you to use the products you love and stop holding on to things for like a maybe magical wish list. And then, as I said, I've given myself a really clear goal. If I cannot make these 2 other or a couple other palettes work, then it's a wrap. And that's how I declutter beauty and makeup things for winter. All right, if you have any questions, let me know.